Hello everyone, welcome to Hue Spotlight. We are live and I am so excited. It's been a couple of weeks, but we're back and I have the beautiful Katrina Van Humbeck here on the hot seat, and I am so happy I have her brand new album right in my hands. It is Stronger Still. She will be doing a song off the album, but right now, Katrina, it's all about you. Welcome to Hue Spotlight.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It's such a thrill to be here.
Despite, being in person, being able to play music, it's been now, finally, a summer. What has the whole experience been like for you getting this album out? I know this one is special for you.
Oh, that's amazing, Tracy. Well, getting this album out, a matter of probably about a few years of songwriting, and then the arranging process, finding mentors to inspire me and to help me along with that arranging, and then also to be, then once we got down to the lead sheets were all good to go and the arrangements were done, tracking down the right instrumentalists, and then of course being in contact with Private Ear Recording is where this was recorded. And I had the thrill of working with John Paul Peters as the assistant producer, and then setting up scheduling times in the studio, which is always, he's a busy guy, it's a busy place, so all those kinds of things had to be all lined up. And so that process, to be honest, started in June of 2021, so not that long ago, but the whole recording process went from June all the way to October. So it was a bit of a haul, but the dream started in 2019 for this album.
And I just want to mention too that it's an all Winnipeg team, and people from all across the country watch this and listen to this. And I just want to give some kudos to all of the musicians and artists here in Winnipeg, because we have some real talent. And some of the musicians that are on your album, incredible. And you'd mentioned Private Ear Recording too as well. Mm-hmm. And you, girl, you did a lot of the background work and a lot of the producing. So this was a first for you too.
Yes, thank you so much. I do want to tag on to what you were saying, Tracy, about they may be located in Winnipeg, but they're really world class. Let's be real. I'm just going to throw out some of those names. Richard Gillis, founder of the Winnipeg Jazz Orchestra on trumpet. Carl Kohut in jazz studies at the U of M on the double bass. Having Jim Johnston, a military drummer who's just incredible on drums. Rodrigo Manez on congas. And I don't want to leave, oh my goodness, and of course Larry Roy on electric and acoustic guitar, Juno nominated. So I'm just so fortunate. The way I say it is that they actually agreed. They said yes. They added their talents to this project. So I'm just so grateful. And in what you were saying, Tracy, about just sort of that dream of being a producer and working alongside my assistant producer, John Paul Peters, but yet it was so nice to have someone else to bounce ideas off of and say, what do you think of this and how about that? And rather than being kind of in a bubble by yourself, but then also not only picking the musicians, but then also I was so thankful to be able to play keys on this album myself as well for the recording. So that meant a lot to just kind of have a bit more hand on it myself.
Mm-hmm. So this process, this time around, Katrina, what did you learn about yourself personally as a songwriter and a musician?
Oh, that's great. Great questions, Tracy. Well, as a songwriter, I would get a lot of inspiration from other people. And I had a mentor of mine who would say, listen, listen, listen. Music that inspires you, listen to it. Listen to all kinds of different music, and don't just, even as you're delving into writing, make sure you're listening to other artists and finding, what do I like about them? If there's something you want to emulate. So with that in mind, I was thinking about doing listening, and as well as recognizing the different styles. On this particular album, I really made a purpose to have half of the tunes swing, in a jazz style. They have a swing feel for them. So I really thought, I just really want to make sure I get this swing beat. And with one of the tunes on this, I actually arranged it for a 3-part horn trio, and I'd never done that before. And so having to be able to balance out vocals, and then also having when are the horns coming in? Is it trumpet here, or saxophone and trombone and all that kind of stuff, and arranging for all those parts. So as an arranger, there's a lot of challenge, and also for strings. I didn't mention string players too, but I just, for example, you think, oh, the classic jazz standards of long ago, they always had strings, so I wanted to have strings. So, and I guess something I learned, Tracy, in answer to your question, is that I set my mind to it and I could do it. So that meant a lot. You know, that with the help of other people, with the encouragement and help and direction, I thought, I can do this thing. And so that felt so good, you know, to just say, oh my goodness. And you almost don't want to blow your own horn at all, but you just kind of humbly, and I do give, I do give my source of strength to, the source, to God, and I really am a faith girl. And so I just kind of thought, wow, we're a good team. I get the super on my natural, and so then I can do a lot of things.
Well, and you are no stranger to organization, to music. You're a teacher and educator, and I think that really shows through to this big success that you've had to getting the CD out. I want to talk now. You had the launch, and it was the end of April, just as we're kind of coming out of this. Do I dare still talk about COVID? But yes, because it is the white elephant in the room.
It is.
I mean, COVID doesn't exist. It never happened. Well, we know. What was the experience like for you and the audience too? Was it just jubilation and masks off? Well,
that's a great question too, Tracy. I guess, when I was really hoping to be able to launch this. The recording, I had the CDs in my home in January. And I was thinking, they're in these boxes, and I want to but then it was, okay, now another lockdown, and so we had to and then you have to be sensitive to people, because there's people who are very conscientious, there's people who are, I still haven't been out in public, I still get my groceries delivered to me. I'd love to come. I'll buy support tickets, but I won't go because we are only in our only immediate bubble. And all I can say is I have to respect that so completely, because people have immune compromised people in their lives. And so that was one challenge, that as I picked the Franco-Manitoban, I was so excited. The Franco-Manitoban in the heart of St. Boniface, right on Provencher. They have beautiful parking there. There's a very intimate style setting. It's seated 100, and there's a bar there. It's just a really beautiful setting with a great sound person. The staging is lovely. But even with all that, and even being able to distance themselves, there's still people who said, well, I'm not coming out, or I'll buy support tickets. But there was a good-sized audience. For that intimate size, there was about 70 people, which I was so very thankful for. It filled it up really nicely. And honestly, to be back to a stage after a few years of hiatus was like a dream come true. There were still some people in masks, in answer to your question, but there were some people who were just, I'm good, so we just wanted to be sensitive to that, so.
And I think now that the summer has arrived, we've had the festivals, we have had the Jazz Fest, we've had Folk Fest, Fringe is going on right now, and then Folkorama. So I think we're over it. What is your biggest fear? Perhaps that we're going to go back into some sort of lockdown in the fall?
Well, that's a great question too, Tracy. I don't want to live in a sense of fear, I'll be honest, but I do have some concerns when, I hear there's still a lot of uneasiness surrounding travel. I know I haven't ventured outside of Manitoba myself yet. I'm hoping to at some point. It's just I've been more close to home because of family and such, but I know I don't want there to be further restrictions on people for travel and people not being able to once again see their loved ones, or and I know when there's rumblings out there in the government about, and I want to be careful what I say, but just about maybe we're anticipating something in the fall. It's like, why even go there? You know, let's just
I
learn
know.
to live with what we're dealing with and move on, you know.
Yes.
That's kind of, so as far as being concerned, I'm concerned that we don't want to regress. We don't want to take steps back
No.
when people are, hopefully I'm not just speaking for myself, that I think people are done. You know, I think a lot of people are done, and they're just, you know what, so many people have taken measures to protect themselves medically. Many people have overcome the virus, had it, what have you. Let's just move on. So
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
kind of,
That's
you
where
know,
you're hoping, and then hopefully
that's what I'm hoping.
you can tour this album.
I'd really
the
love
music.
to be able to share it more.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now you'd mentioned family, so family is very important to you,
Yes.
and I think your mom was very important to you too.
Yes, and I dedicated my first album, Blue and Beyond, to her, and my second album, Doing a New Thing. Again, she's always in the back of my mind, and I can now talk about her without, you know, because it's been 6 years since her passing, but every now and again you just get overwhelmed with these emotions, you know. But she was a great cheerleader. She was a professional woman. She was a registered nurse, retired upon when she passed from cancer. But she was just such a role model of strength, coming from the former Czechoslovakia, coming to Canada, redoing exams, and to re-establish her career again as a nurse in another country, learning the language, you know, all that. You just kind of, so I didn't have the role model of a mom who was at home. She wasn't the stay-home mom. My dad was a stay-home dad for 5 years while he was a bodybuilder, you know, and a former Mr. Manitoba in 1974. So I'll just throw that out
Throw
there.
that in there.
Yeah,
Wow.
you know, personal trainer, fitness, all that kind of stuff. So I had all this kind of really neat stuff feeding into my life. Just kind of a go for it type of attitude, you know, just, you just need to go for it. What are you waiting for? Just do it. So I just know that my mom is there, just kind of cheering me on all the way through, even now. That's what
so beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, it's being able to have that confidence, right, too? I mean, number one, you need confidence even to get up in front of a crowd and perform these songs that come from your heart, and you don't know what their reaction is going to be. But to have the confidence to really, you know, put all of your energy into producing something like this.
You know, it just kind of makes me laugh, Tracy, because, you know, people go, how do you do it? How do you? And you know what, I think it's a little bit of, I don't want to call myself a narcissist, because I'm a loving individual and I work with children and people, but I just don't think about that. You know, I don't think about, what will people think of me? Or,
yeah.
Like, I'm going to throw something out there kind of hilarious. My husband one time, he said, well, you know, you're a little full of yourself. I go, what? Full of myself? He goes, I thought you knew. I said, come on, you know? And he said, well, I mean, really? And I thought, well, maybe people kind of think when you're doing something that is from your heart, or that you're presenting a confidence, but I just was never taught to be small. That was not something that was role modeled to me. Well, you better be small.
No.
You better not look too pretty, or you better not look too smart, or you better not be too good at things, or people will not like you. You know, like, is that making sense, Tracy?
Well,
I mean, as ridiculous as that might
your
sound.
dad was a bodybuilder, so you know, saying that, I mean, come on. I mean, you gotta have some self-confidence to do that. But,
you know, so.
Yeah. Oh, no, but it's, I guess the songs in this collection, is it a reflection of the Katrina in the future?
That's a great question, Tracy. You know, it's kind of a snapshot of the past years, and I will say that the songs, they're what I would call a jazz fusion, like a jazz with some gospel flavor to it, because I feel that it's kind of been a journey through the time of the pandemic, and even just a journey through feeling like, a journey. I like to say that these are songs speaking about love, hope, and strength. You know, just you're loving, you're hoping for things to get better, and then there's strength that comes from above and strength from inside. So it's kind of within that journey. And I do hope that it would encourage people. I know I've heard some positive feedback in that way, that some people go, wow, that's really, and again, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind about anything. It's just comes from me as part of my faith journey, and some people can relate. And you're always, as a musician, hoping that people can grab some nugget and say, wow, that sort of really speaks to me, or that particular song I really loved. Or
and I don't know, it just occurred to me. I mean, your story is beautiful, and I'm just, so supportive and proud that you have done this, and it really, we had talked about it before. It really is an inspiration to women. And so speaking of females and women and the market for music, it is young and sexy, and, is there room for, an older-ish
I hear you.
artist to come on the scene? Do you feel that, or no? You don't think about it?
That's a really great question, and those are some of the other things I never, I hadn't thought a lot about. But it's kind of like, wow, when I'm, and again, I don't talk a lot about my age, but when I think about, I'm really hustling gigs alongside with women who are easily 20, 25 years younger than I am, and thinking, well, why wouldn't you pick me? Why wouldn't you want me in your venue or whatnot? And I just kind of think, well, and it's a bit intimidating. It would be a little bit.
And it shouldn't, but
it could be.
It could be. Yeah,
for sure. And and I think, but those stereotypes of, oh, well, a woman of this age, she shouldn't wear a bikini to the beach, or she shouldn't be doing whatever, or even some family might say, well, I know after my first album, On Came the Second, a family member said, well, aren't you done with this now? Wasn't that just a thing? I'm like, well, I kind of keep on going with it because it's kind of a passion, and then
why shouldn't
and
you?
Every now and again you sort of think, oh, I don't know, and then all of a sudden you're applying for these different things, and in comes the Western Canadian Music Award nomination. You're like, oh,
I am okay.
I am okay. Maybe people are appreciating what I'm doing.
Oh, that is so funny. And again, that's kudos to all of your efforts, but and I hate to say it, but that's what we live in.
I know.
Really?
Right.
We live in with all of those comments, and you did the right thing. You shook it off, and doesn't matter. I'm going straight ahead. I'm doing a third album, so stick it to them.
And I know someone had called someone else in an interview, said that I was like a relentless force, and I like to consider myself like a relentless force of enthusiasm, because I'm a positive individual. And you speak about women, Tracy. I'm all for building up women. I love building up women. I love encouraging women. That whole idea about straighten the crown, don't be. I mean, who are we really to knock somebody else down or make them feel less? And what are we gaining by doing that? Like I mean, it's competitive out there, but I mean, can we not believe that there's enough music making for all of us?
Exactly. There's enough people to have music played for them, to enjoy, and that's perfect. Yeah. I mean, there's a spot for everybody, right?
Right.
Everybody can have a piece of the pie. But you are going to play us a song, aren't you?
I am, and I'm so excited.
Yes.
I'm going to be playing a song called Hold On from this album, and just to give you, it's inspired by just the love that I feel that God has for me, and that He holds on. And we always feel like we're messing up all the time. Just kind of feel like, why did I say that, or why did I do that? And then, yet it's kind of like it's a fresh start. Every day can be a fresh start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is. Thank you so much, Katrina. Katrina will be back, but we are going to take a short break. And then I will have an interview with Dean Stairs. He's all the way in Newfoundland, but of course, the beauty of virtual It seems like he's right here on set with Hue Spotlight. Don't go away, there's still more to come on Hue Spotlight. I want to give a big Winnipeg welcome to Dean Stairs, all the way in Newfoundland. But hey, you're not that far. When it comes to virtual reality and Zoom, I feel like you're right here on my set.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Well, you know what, Dean? I think what really struck me first of all was your music. And then I found out that I guess your title should be called Mr. Music because you have a recording house, you have artists under your roof, you produce, you do everything, and you have experience in so much. So I guess my first question to you, Dean, is why Newfoundland and why set up shop there? And it obviously has been successful for you.
Why Newfoundland? It's just circumstances. They're combined at the right moment for me. We were looking for a change, and we wanted to get back into music. We being my wife and I, and we bought an actual old Salvation Army building, which is called the Citadel House, or the Citadel was what the Salvation Army called it. And it's a huge 7,000 square foot building, and we just found ways. Oh, there goes the fire. And found ways to make use of that as the live environment and as a custom-made interior for studio recording.
Amazing. Okay, so now let's get into the music. Artists from around the world now, but interesting story. I had Ana Luisa Ramos on the show,
yes.
And knowing her background, like a Brazilian, landing in Canada, moving to Newfoundland.
Yeah.
I guess you have met so many different artists, though, right? As opposed to you being in Toronto.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting thing with Anna and Eric. Now, to go back a couple of steps in my life, I spent 4 years in Brazil, in Sao Paulo area, when I was 13 through 17 years old. So I heard them speaking in Portuguese, Ana and Eric, Ana and her husband, and I at a just a music industry event, and I approached them and talked to them and found out, and we had become friends, and as with these things, one thing leads to another. Anna's an incredible artist, and Eric's a great songwriter, so the combination is very interesting. Sometimes. My wife's from Colorado, and sometimes we ask ourselves, what are all the things that have led us here? And as you started with, why Newfoundland? It's okay, we're here, we love it, and we're happy to play our part. Right?
Oh, amazing. Okay, so let's talk now about your music. An instrumentalist. Now, is this by choice, Dean, or do you come by this naturally and just because of all of your experience behind the scenes, really focus on that?
I love sounds, and I really like the way that sounds come together and how a sound of something can create an emotion. And so I've been drawn to that side of music, to music as opposed to song. I appreciate great songwriters, and I produce them on a regular basis, and I work with a lot of what I think are some of the best, certainly in this region of Canada, but it's not something that I do. It just doesn't flow out of me like some of these people. And as I said, since I worked with such great writers, I went, why should I really try and do something that they're already doing so well? Why don't I concentrate on something else? Because I know I can do that, and I know that that's where my affinity lies, actually.
Okay, so we were talking just before we got rolling, and of course, on the back of our minds, it's always about the pandemic. It's about COVID and what's coming next. Although the doors are opening, you predicted a floodgate of music, of musicians. Why is that?
Well, there's been a lot of pent-up time. Musicians have spent a lot. Well, it's just in another role that I have been doing for the last 11 years, I've been on the board of the East Coast Music Association, and for 6 of those as the chair, you kind of get a glimpse at where the industry, like where the people on the East Coast are going, the artists are. And it seems like a lot of the, so what if you want to call it the most well-known, they just kind of hunkered down and spent this time kind of revisiting some of their songs, and it's just the way things are going to go. A lot of people have albums that are ready to go, and they're very, very vigorously attached to the idea of getting out and presenting that music and doing it this summer and starting their career running again, right? People are very much done with the idea of not being able to perform and not having people hear their music.
Oh, so true. And for yourself now, when you're listening to so much music, what are some of the key things that you look for?
I suppose, you know what, as an owner of a label and as a producer and as just a music lover, the common thread in there is the music has to do something for me emotionally. It has to create an emotional response. And that can be from many different aspects of the music. Sometimes it's the music itself, sometimes it's the song. Ideally, it's the combination. And then if you put that together with great production and a good supporting group and band and the good mix and all the technical things are together, then it becomes something that really stands on its own. That's, of course, that's the goal of everybody who works in the industry, that we achieve all of those things and put it all together well. But initially, it has to create some kind of emotional response. And, you know, anger is just as valid as weeping, right? I mean, it's an emotional response, contemplation, and the ability to relax, listening to a particular style of music, as much as dance and workout and all of that. These are all valid, but they can't be something that just leaves you apathetic, right?
Yeah, no, totally agree. And so you were talked about going back now to your work with the Eastern Canadian Music Organization. Yes.
Yep.
Where do we stand, Canadians as a whole? And then if we kind of go segregate East, and then of course there's the West, representing the West here. And then I guess BC is on its own, and then that leaves Montreal, Quebec on their own, and then it's sort of Toronto, Vancouver. But yeah, so listening to the radio, top 40, how many Canadians are on there?
Well, thanking Canadian content rules, there's at least 30% on Canadian radio.
I know. Yeah.
You know, Canadian talent, in terms of just raw talent, can punch well above their own weight. They can. There's the potential there to do very well. Is it industry support? Is it getting the attention of the people who have the money to get you out there farther? Sometimes that is the answer. Other times, you know, geographically, the country is huge, and it really has the population of about New York State in the entire country. So there's just some things that make it very difficult to advance past wherever it is that you grew up your music, wherever the incubation place is. So, for example, Winnipeg, man, I've seen some really good acts come out of Winnipeg. I mean, everything from the Brothers Landreth to Red Moon Road. Sheena Ratai is one of the vocalists that I have she elicits an emotion every time she sings. Yeah. I worked with an artist who originally came from Winnipeg, now lives out in BC. Again, a fabulous vocalist, really good songwriter, very good in her particular area. Winnipeg is a hotbed of really strong, unique writers and performers that seem to have a really good sense of who they are as an artist. So maybe I see that because I also see that on the East Coast.
Yes.
There's a good bit of, it's not everybody, but there's a good bit of people, and that seems to cross most genres of music, everything from classified through to the East Pointers who are more Celtic, classified as more rap, to Alan Doyle, who's that fusion of Celtic and pop and whatever, like he's his own genre.
Jesus,
really.
yes.
Yeah. Basically, a fantastic entertainer, and just a really honest, genuine person.
Well,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but I was going to just agree with you, Dean. I really see a similarity in the artists coming out of Winnipeg, the West, and the East Coast. There seems to be something that's true to their heart. And another young artist that I interviewed too was Claire Follett, and a wonderful, wonderful girl, and so talented. And to me, this is like, I care about them all and I want them all to succeed, but it is so hard. And the game has changed, hasn't it, Dean?
Yeah, we're not sure yet what has changed in terms of COVID, like what that's done. Everybody hopes that it just goes back to something like it was in 2019. Not necessarily because that was good, but at least everybody knew what it was, right?
Right.
So now I think we really we're in uncharted territory in some ways. If your career depends largely on the live portion of what you do, getting back to where I said about we're geographically dispersed, we have a very small pockets that are very far apart. This is very different than an artist who's working, for example, in LA. When I was down there and talking to them, they would do tours around Orange County, and that was a big thing. Orange County, good grief, it's like an hour from one side to the other, right? But there's 4 million people within that area. It's a whole different world, really.
Yes, no, you're right. We just have to get more people to come to Canada.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we've been talking about is, and this wouldn't necessarily be true for Winnipeg, but certainly in Newfoundland, the cost of getting to, for example, Toronto, which is your only really comparative large urban area for us moving west, okay? So the cost of getting there is very similar to the cost of getting to, say, Berlin. But if you get to Berlin, now you are in this area where you can drive in for an hour in multiple different directions and reach many people. It's the largest geographic market, second largest in consumer market in the world under China.
Wow.
It's bigger than the United States. It's $500 million, and the United States is 384 million. So you're looking at these are some of the decisions that are being made on the East Coast. That's really only true for Newfoundland, not necessarily what we call mainlanders like Nova Scotia, PEI, and New Brunswick, because for them the cost is it's still just the cost of gas in the car to get to Toronto. But for us, it's a gas in the car, the ferry ride, which you got to book. It's $500 round trip. And then you're just off the island in Sydney, Nova Scotia, which to everybody else, probably for you, it's like, well, you're still just on the outskirts of the moon, as far as most people are concerned, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's not much, like there's Sydney, then Halifax, and really the next town is Montreal. That's like 600, 700 kilometers away, 1,000 kilometers. So it's a very harsh reality, but it is a reality that you can't get around it.
No.
You have to consider it,
Yeah.
So the only way we can do it is bring a bunch of people to Canada. We need another 100 million, and then we get better, right?
yeah. Or keep on just doing this virtual stuff, right? Because boom, instantaneously, you can get your music out there. I know.
I think that's very true, and that would be something that COVID has brought us. That, for example, I can be doing an interview with somebody in Winnipeg. It only used to be that if I was touring, that I could be interviewed in Winnipeg. Yeah.
Well, it has been an awesome pleasure to meet you, Dean. And really, let's keep in touch. The next time you can have a live concert at the Citadel, let Hue know, and we'll broadcast it. We'll do something. We'll get, because we got to share the love, right? If anything.
Yeah.
Travel is going to be slow getting back. We know that. And, everybody's, worrying about cost. But the beauty of music and the joy of music is always there, and that's free. So I really appreciate this. And it's wonderful meeting you. And hopefully we can have more of your artists on our show. That's our aim. Let's get the music out there, people. And listen to it.
That's great.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much.
And we do have your video, and it's a lovely song, A Satisfying Austerity. instrumental, something you can just simply listen to and not have to think.
Yes,
Too much.
that's right.
Too much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Here he is, Dean Stairs.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Katrina Van Humbeck. I'm performing for you the song Hold On from my new album, Stronger Still. got a feeling, and this isn't something new. I know you love me, God, your word says that it's true. Even when I fail to shine and forget I'm your child, your thoughts of me are good, and I'm always on your mind. So you just hold on and wait to see me smile. Hold on to being with me all the while. So you just hold on to loving me day and night. You're thinking about me, and that's alright. My life's full of wonder since I asked you into my heart. Days turned into years, and now we'll never be apart. Jesus, you're my friend, you're with me through rain or shine. We'll walk this life together until the end of time. So you just hold on and wait to see me smile. Hold on to being with me all the while. So you just hold on to loving me day and night. You're thinking about me, and that's alright. You're everything I wanted, and a friend that's hard to find. Like a cool breeze on a summer day, you bring joy all the time. I could dream the hours away by, always basking in your grace. If it's all the same with you, no one will ever take your place. Who by you, Baba do, but we do. But do you, but we do. But do you, but we do. So you just hold on and wait to see me smile. Hold on to being with me all the while. So you just hold on to loving me day and night. You're thinking about me, and that's alright. So you just hold on and wait to see me smile. Hold on to being with me all the while. So you just hold on to loving me day and night. You're thinking about me, and that's alright. You're thinking about me, and that's alright.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Katrina, for being our guest here on Spotlight. And stronger still, people can get this little baby on your website. They can contact you, and that's katrinavhmusic.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It's been a thrill.
Oh, great. And thank you to all of you for joining us. Join us in a couple of weeks. We'll be back here with another live, wonderful episode of Hue Spotlight.